Assalamu alaikum. Hello, everyone. And today's session gives tips for Firestop inspections. This will be mainly red flag for the Firestop inspectors, what they need to look at on site, and will be also good for the Firestop installers that they know what they need to avoid in their installations. So on this short presentation, we'll go through the criticality of passive fire protection, Firestop inspection, maintenance, the typical components of through penetrations for any Firestop penetrations, and the type of Firestop sealants and how they work, and finally will be the common installation of error and deficiencies. So in this presentation will be based on the IFC, IBC standards, NEP 101, and ASTM. So let's start with the criticality of passive fire protection, why the passive fire protection is important. And we know that many tragic and fire incidents have been happen, and the cause of not confining the fire and the place of origin, that the fire stopping was not there or was not working properly to stop the fire and keep the fire at the first place the fire started, and not going to affect the other adjacent areas or upper floors. Here, another fire happened also in Rockefeller Center, and the main cause of fire spreading was the no fire stopping or bad fire stopping of the horizontal vertical openings. So what is the leading killer in fires? Is it the fire itself or the smoke? Smoke and toxic gases are the main killer, and in this fire, this is usual. As we know that about 75% of the fire deaths are caused by the smoke inhalation. Additionally, the smoke also affecting the visibility. So the people will not be able to see properly where is the exits, how to get out from the building, and also will affect the capability of firefighters to do their rescue for helping the people getting out of the building. Also, we know that approximately 57% of the people killed in fires are not from the fire origin. They are in the adjacent areas to the main fire origin. And we know also that smoke travels very fast. The smoke travels around 120 to 420 feet per minute. So containment and confining fires at the fire origin is very important to give time for people to escape from the building. The balanced fire protection approach. So normally the prescriptive codes like NFPA, like IFC, IPC, the using different layers or multiple layers safeguards for fire protection. So they are not depending only on single fire protection. So let's say that managing the fire impact could include the containment by structure, could be based also on the detection to give alarm for the people to evacuate from the building, and also the active fire protection systems like sprinkler systems. So it will not be only based on the active fire protection system, but there is very importance for the containment of the fire. This by the structures like firewalls, floor assemblies or fire-rated assemblies like floors as well. So this will contain the fire and confine the fire and the first place of fire, and will not spread along the other spaces. And we know that the sprinkler system cannot manage multiple floors. So if the fire is not contained at the origin place and spread it to other floors or wide spaces, and this also will affect the active fire protection system, like sprinkler will not be able to contain or suppress the fire or control the fire properly, because it will be a very wide area. Fire stopping, why it's required? Well, why we need to put fire stopping? Okay, fire stopping is a part of many elements in passive fire protection, like fire dampers, fire doors, fire-rated windows, and the through penetration joints. We have the when we decided to have fire rated assembly like firewall or fire floor, any penetration to this area need to be protected by sealant or by adding a fire door just to maintain the integrity of this wall to do the intended function. We have here photos showing that different elements of passive fire protection. So the fire stopping is mandated by the codes. Life safety, property protection also be achieved by the fire stopping, and the main function also is to provide time, to give time for the people to evacuate out from the building. Here we can talk about fire stop inspection and maintenance, where it's required, how should be maintained. So IBC requires the fire stop special inspections to be conducted in high-rise buildings and other buildings that are assigned and classified as risk category 3 or category 4, and newly added to the code to add the group R occupancies when the occupant load is greater than 250. So this special inspection for through penetration became mandatory for this type of buildings. Now, if we need to know how to do this inspection, what I need to look at, and what is the inspection documents required, what is the qualification of the fire inspector, how should be scheduled, the frequency, how many specimens need to be tested, what type of test it will be witnessing of the installation, or while it will be just destructive test to ensure that the installation have been done properly. All this, we can find it as a best practices and guidelines within ASTM E2174. So if you need to know how to do that inspection, so this is the required standard as per the IBC code. Maintenance of materials and fire stopping system is also required to be provided to make sure that over the time of the building life, you need to know that firstly, after installation have been checked and ensure that installation is okay as per the tested system and it's already inspected and accepted. So you need to maintain every year, so to make sure that the fire stop installations are okay and are doing the function, and in the event of fire, it will be available and do the function properly, so it will stop the fire and confine the fire. Owner's responsibility to do visual inspection annually. So this something is very important to keep inspecting and maintaining the fire stop installations, and also keeping the records. Additional point would be very important that the facility management is very important part, is not mentioned in the code, but it's like a best practice to make sure that the no additional installation will be done. So might be one of the technicians going to be opening a hole for mechanical or electrical installations, and he doesn't know that this wall is a fire rated, then we'll just make a hole and will make an issue for the fire stop system and the integrity of the fire rated assemblies. This could be just be managed through the work permits and facility management system. So the typical components of through penetration fire stop system. So if we need to know the main elements, main components, we can understand what we need to inspect and how we can ensure the good installation. So through penetration of fire stop system is penetrating a fire rated assembly. So this to protect and confine the fire within the origin of fire and restrict the passage of fire and hot gases to the adjacent areas or adjacent floors. We can see here in the picture, we have different type penetrations like cable trays, plastic pipes, conduits, and different type of installations that penetrating floors and walls. Typical true penetration firestop are mainly the assemblies are containing of the fire resistant element that could be brick wall, could be concrete wall, and could be drywall, and also might be a floor slab. This is the first element. Second element is the penetrant. This penetrant can be a pipe, insulated pipe, and this pipe could be metallic pipe or could be a plastic pipe, the conduit or cable tray. So there is multiple type of penetrants, and each penetrant have different specification that will affect what the type of sealants need to be selected and what the tested system need to be followed. The firestop material itself, this could be cementous material, could be intumescent material, acrylic-based material, and could be also additional devices like cooler or intumescent wrap. Sometimes also there is packing material to be used, like the mineral wool, to do the function of the fire confining as per the tested system. The key elements affecting the performance of any through penetration firestop system. So the fire-rated assembly, the floor or wall itself, the thickness of concrete and type of the material or construction of the fire-rated assembly. This is very important to select the right system and how the system will be performed in event of fire when it's exposed to high temperatures. Second point, we have the F rating and T rating. What is the F rating and T rating of the fire-rated assembly? So when you are selecting your system, should be matching the fire rating. This is mandatory for all the system, and there is some exceptions for T rating. The opening specification, what will be the opening shape? Is it round? Is it rectangular? Or it's just a punch by a hammer? So all of this, very important to know your type of or shape of your hole. Is it circular, rectangular? You need to select the same system matched your case. The annular space. This is the space between the penetrant to the edge of wall. However, the shape of the opening, in this case, the annular space have a limitation on the minimum and maximum and need to be following the same as per your system giving you limitation. So exceeding the limit or going for zero annular space, this should be within the acceptance of the tested system as or the data sheet or the drawings provided by the firestop system manufacturer. The backing material. Sometimes the system, not all the time, sometimes the system needs to have additional backing material like mineral wool, glass fiber, or backer rod. So if your system is specifying certain material and certain product to be used as a backing material, so you need to use the same as it's mentioned in your tested system. Another very common error we see on fire inspections is the percent of cable fill. However, this cable fill on the opening or the cable fill of a cable tray, also the type of cables that you have on site. So if you have higher percentage of a cable filling, so this will be an issue for your material to react and to stop the fire properly and to perform as intended. So the cable filling is very important factor that you need to have focus on site. So this is the percent of cable filling. Normally, the cable filling percentage is around 40, and in rare case are going to 65%. So if you have a hole or opening is full of cables, and it seems that the percentage of filling is very high, so I believe this will not be a standard system and might you need to go to engineer judgment or change the size of the opening. The penetration item specification, so every penetrant will have different behavior in event of fire and when it's exposed to high temperature. So the plastic pipes, not like the metallic pipes, cable and cable trays are different, and also the combustibility of material will affect the how it will perform in the event of fire. So plastic pipes will make a hole and it will not stay for a long time, it will melt. And in this case, you need to use the material that will expand, sealant material that will expand and will close the hole. Other than the metallic pipes, it will not do the same. The metallic pipes normally will stay in place, but they maybe have minor deflection on the surrounding that will need to have a sealant to stay in place, but no need for the expandable material like the plastic pipes or cables. Fire stopping materials, the type, thickness of material used for sealant is also very important and crucial to the overall performance of the system. So intumescent material are behaving completely different than the other materials. The accessories, this optional, sometimes we have to use the cooler for the plastic pipes to make sure that the fire stopping sealant and intumescent sealant will move inward to the annular space and not be moving out of the opening. Let's move now to the type of fire stop sealant, talk in depth on how they are working. The common types of material used in through penetrations are mainly two types: intumescent material and endothermic materials. Intumescent materials, fire stopping materials, expands to approximately 10 times their original volume when expanded to temperatures exceeding 250 Fahrenheit. The expansion of the material fills the void. So if we have a plastic pipe, a cable, this cable will leave the hole and the plastic will melt, and then you have a big hole. In this case, you have the material that have the ability to expand and close the void. So here we have pictures showing the how in test how the material behave and furnaces when they are doing the test, and the picture down showing the cooler and cable cooler also after the fire have been happened and the intumescent material have been already operated and closed the opening. Other type of material is the endothermic material. This provides protection through the chemical bound water release in form of steam, so this absorbing the heat exactly. So this can be used for other than the plastic openings. So like a cable tray could be with metallic pipes as well. There is one additional type. This used in joints is not related to what we are focusing today, the through penetrations for the firestop joints. So we have the applied firestop products that's also used as a base material for the firestop sealants and joints. So recognizing the common installation errors and deficiencies is what you need to avoid on site, and the fire inspector need to look at when he's doing the inspections. So the first case here, we have the improper tool sealant. This give an indication that your material is not properly with the right thickness in the inner space, and might be the inner space not filled properly. So this additional caulk around the pipe is not required. This will affect your system and give an indication that there is something wrong. Especially for the instrumental material, we can see here that the improper tooling could be a reason that your material is not filling the inner space properly, and it will move outward of your inner space in case of fire and will not stay in place to do the function is intended for. Here we have a photo showing that your proper tooled material, how should be tooled. The improper packing. You should use the proper packing material. Here we have the non-approved material used as a packing material, so you make sure that you are using the same brand and same type of packing material as per your tested system. Improper packing in this photo is showing that the plastic or the expansive foam insulation used. Normally, we are using the mineral wool as a packing material. The fire stopping dampers, around dampers. Normally, this is a common fault. The fire damper is not required to be sealed by fire stopping material unless otherwise is mandated or specified in the data sheets of the fire damper manufacturer. Your fire damper not required to be sealed because this it seems like to be intumescent sealant. This Firestop material could expand or fill the gap of the clearance between the fire damper and wall. This clearance is mandatory for the fire damper to expand. The metal will expand, and if you lock this expansion area, so it will be an issue for your damper that will not be working as intended and might be impaired of working. Large annular space. This also a common installation error that you have your opening is wide than the limitation accepted by your tested system. In this case, if you can see in the photos like an intumescent material, the material will expand more than the required expansion, and this will affect the integrity of the Firestop material. It will not work as intended. You need to make sure that your system is installed within the limitation of the opening size and the annular space size. No retaining angle on the HVAC, non-fire dampered HVAC installations. So the HVAC ducts installation without dampers, this should also have a retaining angle to make sure that your duct will not deflect and leave an opening. So it's not only fire stopping material around the HVAC ducts, but we should have the retaining angle to make sure this for rectangular ducts to make sure that your duct will not deflect. This is not required for round ducts because round ducts will behave differently. Last point, we have here proximity of multiple penetrations are very close to each other. This could be avoided by following the installation of mechanical and electrical installation as per the mechanical and electrical codes. And thank you for listening to this presentation, and see you soon.
So thank you, Mohamed, for your presentation on fire inspection tips. So you spoke about common errors that can happen when installing Firestop systems. What would be your key words of advice for installers watching today to prevent these sort of errors happening?
I need to tell them that the fire stopping is not just a sealant, it's not just a red material. They need to strictly following the tested system and to use the same material, same specification, and the thickness of material, right thickness of material. So they need to strictly following what is written in the tested system. And non-tested system is not acceptable and should not be used. Close enough is not good enough.
Perfect. And what are the most common types of buildings where fire stops are found?
So the fire stopping is mandated to be inspected and installed in many buildings, but let's say the most buildings are creating a special hazard for the people, and where the people are not able to help themselves to evacuate from the building, like hospitals, schools, and high-rise buildings. So this is the main type of buildings that we can say it's very important to have the passive fire protection and fire stopping there.
And you spoke about the importance of inspecting and maintaining fire stop systems on an annual basis. So who would be the responsible party that must ensure that this happens?
Yeah, the full responsibility falls on the facility owner. Facility management also is very important to keep the work permits, and no additional holes will be on the building.
Thank you. Well, this has been a very educational session, so we really appreciate your time for Fire by Live. If anybody has any further questions, please reach out to Mohamed directly on the platform, and you can ask your questions and connect with him. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.